Hi everyone, I hope we're doing well. So let's have a look at our learning for Thursday today. And we're going to start with reading. Okay guys, so we're going to continue with our Matilda text, and we're on chapter 9, still doing our mixed vipers as part of our revision. So we're just going to have a quick look at one question today, and then your daily questions will come up on the next slide. So question first is, how does Miss Honey shock Mr. Wormwood? Well, if we look in the text, we can see that she begins to lose her patience with him, and she tells him off really. She says that he shouldn't be putting the TV in front of his daughter's education, and this is where we learn that he's shocked because he says he wasn't used to being spoken to in this way, and it says that it shook him, which implies that he's shocked at that. So in answer to this, I would say Miss Honey shocks Mr. Wormwood by losing her patience. She tells him off for putting the TV before his daughter. I know Mr. Wormwood was shocked because the text says that shook Mr. Wormwood, and he wasn't used to being spoken in that way. So again, I'm giving that reasoning behind why I'm saying something there. Okay guys, so these are your questions. If you pause the video now, again, if you want though, you can find them in your pack if you prefer to do it like that. Okay, and on to our answers then. You can see they are in red. So again, if you pause the video and compare your answers to mine. Okay, and on to our maths for today. And again, your questions are going to come up in this video, which is slightly different to normal. And today we're going to be looking at translation. And in the following video, it's going to give you a really good description of translation and how we are able to describe translation.
Okay, welcome to translations and how to describe a translation. So what we have here is we are given two triangles, a black one and a red one. Now what we're going to do is we're going to be describing the movement from the black triangle to the red triangle using our vocabulary of translation. So as you can see, we have our black triangle. This is the starting position of the triangle. And basically translations are the movements of objects that slide. So they're always going to be facing the same direction. There's not going to be any rotations or reflections involved in it. So they're only sliding and they're always in the same direction. So the easiest way to describe a translation is to pick a point on your triangle or whatever object you have. So you could either pick the top of the triangle, you could pick the bottom left point of the triangle, or you could pick the bottom right of the triangle. It doesn't really matter as long as you are consistent with which point of the object you want to be moving. Now, when we're doing that for this example, we're just going to select the top middle of the triangle, the top point, just for this example here. Now, what we want to do is we're going to only be working with this one point. Although we have the whole object, it doesn't really matter, again, as I said, which point you pick as long as you're creating your triangle in the same way. So what we're doing is we want to describe the top of this triangle to the other top of the triangle. And that is where we have to be consistent. If we pick the top of the triangle in our starting position, then we have to pick the top of the triangle in our end position. If you pick the bottom right, then be consistent with the bottom right. If it's the bottom left, be consistent with the bottom left. So, now that we know, we see that the point of the triangle is on an intersection of the grid. So we can see that it's right in that point where the lines cross. Now all we have to do is count the points from that position. So we need to describe how this triangle is going to be moving to the red triangle right over there. Now, there's two methods or two different ways that you need to describe this translation. You need to figure out whether the triangle is moving left or right, and then you have to figure out whether the triangle is moving up or down. So for this case, as we could see, this triangle is going to be moving to the right. So from the top, our beginning, we're going to be counting until we're in line with the same column as this point over here on our red triangle. So how many? We're going to start by going to the right. So we're going to start over here. Now we're going to go 1 point to the right, 2 points, 3 points, and now we're in the same line on the grid as the triangle. So the first description is that we've gone 3 squares right. Okay. So the next description of the translation is how it moved downwards. And from that point, we're going to count all the way to the point of our second triangle. So starting from here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that leaves us with 5 squares down. And our object has now been described as a translation. Okay? So when you're doing these translations, it is important to be consistent with whichever point you select. So I'll just quickly go through the other points. So let's just say that I picked the bottom left over here. Now I got to be consistent with the bottom left of the second triangle. So let's see if it's going to go 3 squares down, and 3 squares to the right and 5 squares down. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to be the exact same position. So whatever point you pick, make sure that that corner ends up in the same position when you are translating your object.
Okay guys, so this is where you can start to answer your questions today. And again, if you prefer, you can still look in your packs. It's the same questions that's on this video. So we do the first one together though, and what we need to do on this one is to describe the translation between shape 1 and shape 2. So again, you can see that you choose one corner, as you saw in the video before. Choose one corner. It doesn't matter which one you choose, but it's got to be the same one between the two shapes. And then you just need to describe what's happening. So you can see in this one, it moves 6 squares to the right and 1 square up. So that would be our description of the translation. So next couple of ones you can do on your own. You just need to pause the video between each question. Okay, so question 2. Question 3. Question 4. Question 5. Question 6. And then pause the video if you want to have a go at the challenge question. Okay, so here are your answers for question 2 and 3. Answers for 4 and 5. Answer for 6. And your answer to the challenge question. Okay, and keep looking out for those battles that may crop up. And on to our writing then for today. So today, what I'm hoping that you have a go at is to write an informal letter to yourself with our lockdown focus on that. So again, you can look at these in your packs, and I want you to imagine that you are about to travel back in time just before the coronavirus came to the UK. And what I'd like you to do is write an informal letter or an email to yourself, so that you know what to expect when it actually does arrive. So you're sort of writing back just before, like 3 months back in time, so that you can sort of prepare yourself. What would you tell yourself before it was about to start? Okay, and these are just some of the questions that I've included in your pack that might help you get going with your letter or your email. The first one is, how were you feeling when you heard that school would need to be closed? That could be, remember, it's really important that you get across the feelings that you were feeling at the time. Number 2, what were the bad things about lockdown? So just some examples there: not being able to see friends, and only being able to go outside once. Okay, so that might give you some ideas. And also maybe concentrate on the good things about lockdown, because obviously there's lots of positives. So more time with family, learning new skills, that community spirit, looking out for each other more, an appreciation of key workers, so the Thursday 8 o'clock clap, and also the freedom maybe to manage your own time, your schoolwork yourself, rather than having to be in it at a certain time. So they might be some of the things you might want to concentrate and prepare yourself. Remember, you're writing a letter to yourself, so you can talk about all those things that you might have gone through when lockdown struck. So this is how I would start my letter to myself. So I'd start with, it's me, Mr. Hudson, from 18th of June 2020. You'll never believe the emotional rollercoaster the whole country has been on in the past 3 months. My heart sank when we heard that schools would need to close. According to the government, it just wasn't safe for children to learn there anymore. Get ready for a cauldron of emotions on that day, from guilt to fear. Guilt because I couldn't teach the children normally anymore, and fear for my loved ones, colleagues, and the children of Redbrook Hayes. Okay, so that's how I would start mine off. And again, I'm trying to get those emotions across that you went through at that point when we went into lockdown. So guys, I'm looking forward to reading those. I hope you enjoy that little task. And remember, it's quite a personal thing for you to be writing about, so there's no right or wrong answers. Just give it a go and do your best.